we all have the potential to be activists in the way that we spend our money, who we support financially, the things we align ourselves with in our daily lives through social media. There's so many different ways, and then on top of that, it's important to vote.
Also ich baue Museen, aber noch mehr kümmere ich mich darum, dass Technologie, Brands und deren Strategien mit der Kunst zusammenarbeiten und dass die auf eine Art und Weise zusammenarbeiten, dass das für jeden eine positive Erfahrung wird, dass niemand sich ausgenutzt fühlt, exploited fühlt. Ich arbeite mit vielen Tech-Companies zusammen und kümmere mich auch darum, dass wir zum Beispiel neue Erfindungen, dass wir neue Erfindungen, die es im Tech-Markt gibt, einbauen in Städte, die wir bauen. Zum Beispiel baue ich eine Stadt in Abu Dhabi. Und da gucken wir, dass wir die Kunst nicht immer drauflegen auf die Sachen. Kunst auf etwas draufzulegen ist immer ein bisschen intrusive. Es ist nicht inclusive. Und wir wollen es so entwickeln, neue Städte, neue Räume, neue Marketingideen, dass wir gemeinsam mit dem Architekten, mit dem Künstler, mit den Politikern, die die Stadt führen, mit den Finanziers, die involviert sind, diese Dinge gemeinsam entwickeln und füllen mit Kunst von Anfang an. Creative City Planning.
Okay, und dabei bist du dann über SHEPARD gestolpert?
Nee, über SHEPARD bin ich gestolpert, weil ich seit circa 30 Jahren kuratiere. Ich mache ganz viel. Ich arbeite mit Music-Labels zusammen und kuratiere Plattencover. Ich vermittle Künstler für Film und Fernsehen, also zum Beispiel gerade Leute, die in Hollywood richtig gute Special Effects Künstler kommen zu mir, dann sage ich, der ist klasse, der ist neu, der ist super und bringe die da dazu. Und über SHEPARD bin ich gekommen, weil es gab kein Museum für Street Art auf der ganzen Welt, das gab es nicht, weil Street Art, alle sagen, gehört in die Straße. Das ist aber nicht so. Die Künstler, die auf der Straße arbeiten, machen das eben häufig deswegen und haben das auch deswegen gemacht, weil sie von der Akademie keine Plattform bekommen haben. Das heißt, Künstler, die nicht auf irgendeiner Kunsthochschule waren oder nicht Meisterschüler bei irgendjemand waren, die haben keinen Platz bekommen. Und dann habe ich gesagt, okay, wenn die keinen Platz kriegen, dann bauen wir jetzt mal ein Museum für diese Kunst und fangen an, auch diese Kunst intensiv zu sammeln. Wo hast du gebaut? Das haben wir in Berlin gebaut, das war die Urbanation. Ich habe das damals alleine erfunden, das Konzept, wir haben das Haus gesucht und haben das ganze Ding dann gebaut und haben daraus ein lebendes Museum gemacht, weil ich auch gesagt habe, es bringt nichts, Museen zu bauen, in die Leute dann nur kurz reingehen und dann fühlt man sich irgendwie so, ich weiß nichts, ich fühle mich so unwissend, sondern wir bauen ein Museum, wo die Künstler im Museum leben. Die Künstler haben Residenzprogramme, die Künstler arbeiten und machen Kurse und die Künstler gehen mit uns auf der ganzen Welt darüber sprechen.
Okay, so, dann haben wir verstanden, wo du herkommst, was du machst.
Genau.
Wie du SHEPARD kennst, dann lassen wir jetzt auf die Bühne.
Jawohl, SHEPARD.
Du machst das, oder?
Ich soll dann, du machst das, deine Show, ich mach das nicht.
Okay, dann begrüßen wir herzlich willkommen einem unserer Stargäste, dem Künstler. Oh, Entschuldigung, erstmal das Video. Natürlich.
Public space and by extension the world doesn't need to be controlled by the people that have the most power and money, that you have a voice and you have outlets if you're willing to take risks and and bend the rules. My work's always been about a wide array of opportunities and platforms, using those things to connect with as many people as possible. But the street is still very important to me because I think it connects with the underdog spirit in the viewer, this idea that we're not powerless in the face of all these other powerful forces. We don't have to be spectators in our own lives or spectators in democracy or spectators in creative expression, that we have outlets.
Okay, also jetzt aber, herzlich willkommen, SHEPARD FAIREY.
That's your chair. Oh, you want to sit in the middle?
SHEPARD, good to have you.
Yeah, thank you.
Your show.
Well, it's my show now.
Yeah.
Well, first of all, you and I go way back, so we know each other for over 20 years. But can we see a show of hand? Who knows who SHEPARD FAIREY is and what he does? Woo! Well, there you go. That's a good crowd. So only 75% to convince. So you are what? You are a DJ, an artist, a gallery owner, you are a brand, you are a graffiti artist, you are a filmmaker, you are... what are you?
Well, I guess I've finally come to terms with the word artist, but for years I just said visual communicator because artist sounds a little bit pretentious, but you know, after 30 years, I guess I'm going to have to accept that term, but that applies to most everything I do.
And you started your work in 1989, and you started it in Rhode Island. And why in Rhode Island?
I was going to art school at the Rhode Island School of Design, and you know, I grew up drawing and painting, and didn't really have any idea how that would apply to anything in my life until I got into skateboarding and punk rock, and then later revolutionary hip hop like Public Enemy and Beastie Boys, NWA. I thought about how art is a tool of empowerment, creativity, resourceful creativity from the bottom up is empowering. And when I went to art school, I started to learn about artists who'd used their work to say something socially, people like Barbara Kruger, Robbie Canal. And so I also fell in love with graffiti and the idea that expression is something that people need. And you know, graffiti is a very primal way of saying, I exist and I won't be silenced. I'm going to make my mark on the world, literally. And I liked that, but I wanted to do it in a way that had a little bit more of an accessibility. So I started with this silly sticker that I made with some of my skateboard friends of the wrestler Andre the Giant, but that evolved into something more serious with more social commentary in it, which became the Obey campaign.
Yeah, you were always like a little bit of a rebel. I mean, skateboard punk rocker is what you were, and you really go very far for what you believe in. You were arrested a couple times?
18
times?
18 times arrested?
Yeah.
For graffiti?
Yeah, for street art, graffiti. They have a lot of creative names for it. There's criminal mischief, advertising without a license, vandalism. Think of all the terms in any language you can come up with to try to stop somebody from putting things up, and there'll be a city code for it.
I think that graffiti is highly political, and it's still highly illegal, but why is it so important to you to be politically active?
Well, because the world, I think, needs to be more democratic. The art world needs to be more democratic. Art needs to be more accessible and more democratic, but everything needs to be more democratic. So I really believe that the situation with how most places work is that the powerful pretty much control what everyone is subjected to, what rules everyone follows, and I'd like to see more opportunities for people with good ideas, but not a lot of connections or a lot of money to be able to empower themselves and have play a role in shaping things. So that's important for me, but I'm trying to also create a model that inspires other people to empower themselves. And of course, democracy can have its downside. I mean, you're a curator. You know that curation is also very important. But I look at the positive side of democracy, of having the best ideas rise to the top, regardless of whether someone is well connected, being important.
But you did get involved in political campaigns, more or less in a big one, because you decided to do a poster for Barack Obama for the campaign. You did 300,000 posters and 500,000 stickers, and then there was a huge legal battle, although the piece is still in the White House, and Obama wrote him a letter. But tell us a little bit about that. Did you get paid for the campaign?
No, I didn't get paid to do that. It was a piece of grassroots activism that was done unofficially, but with the permission from the campaign, because it was important to me that if I was making something to support Obama, that it wasn't an unwanted endorsement. I had made a lot of art opposing George Bush, opposing surveillance, opposing the Iraq War, and I thought I might be too controversial. but it turned out that Obama was fine with me making that image. And I created some posters, sold a few to print more, had a free download of the image. It went viral, and I think it's one of the first political things that was really fueled by internet viral culture. And I was incredibly surprised at how quickly it spread, but I was very happy about that. And then I did end up in a legal dispute with the Associated Press because I made the illustration of the portrait of Obama based on a news photograph. Now, I believed that what I did was transformative both aesthetically and conceptually, and so therefore it met fair use criteria for exception from copyright. And when you look at art from Andy Warhol back to Duchamp, Gerhard Richter, the way I worked was not unprecedented by any means, but the Associated Press has a lot of problems with people downloading their stories, their videos, their images verbatim and using them in a way that dilutes their market, siphons off their viewership, and so I understand their problem. I sympathize with that. I collaborate with photographers all the time. I license images, but in the situation of political speech, I think it's very important that there be latitude for referencing real people and making social and political commentary based on things that look like the person. So it was settled out of court, but I'd always like to see more latitude for artists to have a say in what's going on culturally, more freedom of expression, while at the same time I respect copyright.
Yeah, you get involved a lot in political stuff. I know that. So let's go talk a little bit about that. America is going to have another election. What do you think? Are you going to put yourself behind any candidate? But also what's really interesting is at the moment in America, art is being censored. I'm thinking about the books burning. I'm thinking about not being able to say I'm gay. I'm thinking about all these things. What do you think about that censorship? And will you do anything? Or?
Well, I'm against censorship. I'm against any sort of bias that's superficial. So bias against people based on their race, their sexual orientation, their gender, their country of birth, their religion. All of these things are very, very important. Equality is important to me. So when I look at what's going on in the U.S. with a lot of the right-wing censorship, it's based on the idea that these people don't want the hierarchy that says that straight white men get to do whatever they want and everyone else has to fall in line. I would really like to see that become obsolete, and so I will do anything I can to support the right causes, the right candidates. In 2020, I did a lot with Get Out the Vote initiatives because there's been a lot of suppression of democracy, and this is happening only on one side of the political spectrum with the Republicans. Yeah. But anything that would help to counter these voter suppression methods by reminding people that it's important to vote was something that I thought would benefit the Democrats. There's no Democrat that I'm especially excited about right now in the way I was about Obama in 2008, but one of the things that I think is very important is for people to understand that we all have the potential to be activists in the way that we spend our money, who we support financially, the things we align ourselves with in our daily lives through social media. There's so many different ways, and then on top of that, it's important to vote. So I don't leave the state of the nation purely in the hands of the politicians when all the citizens have a lot of responsibility and a lot more power than they give themselves credit for.
Yeah, when we did the murals in Berlin, we had a lot of questions coming up because the murals that we did were always red, white, and black in a propaganda style that was very offensive to a lot of people in Germany. And they were asking, why is he using red, white, and black? So maybe you want to demystify this idea.
Sure. Well, red, white, and black are colors that are very effective visually. It's why propaganda campaigns have used them historically. And in the propaganda campaigns, I include Western advertising. So many of the brands, Marlboro, McDonald's, they're using red, white, and black because they're effective colors. So when I made my street art, I wanted it to stand out from the landscape, get people's attention, and in some ways make people ask questions and potentially give them concern. What is this? What's it trying to say? My Obey campaign was always designed to get people to question obedience, because usually we're asked to fall in line by more of a hidden hand of persuasion. I wanted to make that hand more visible. So the idea that my campaign, which is benevolent and encouraging people to question obedience, would be very visible. It was important to me that in the process of examining what I was doing with my street work, that people would then apply that same scrutiny to everything they're subjected to, whether it be capitalism or politics.
Yeah.
I wanted to drive or like steer the topic a little bit away from too much politics.
We're going to talk about brands now, because
a little bit about brands.
brands.
I mean, because you are also the owner, the founder of Obey, right?
Yeah.
We would call it a fashion brand, right? Is that fair to say? A fashion brand?
Sure.
See, this guy here is all dressed in Obey, I think. Was it your idea to like build that brand? What came first? The activism, and you saw that the Obey, the word is out there, and you turned that into a brand? Or was it a brand all the time, and then the campaign came next?
Well, I came up through skateboarding and punk rock, where the uniform is a T-shirt and jeans and a baseball cap, a sweatshirt, and I always wore things that connected to the culture I cared about, and so a lot of times it was skateboard brand T-shirts or music T-shirts from Public Enemy to The Clash. But what sort of emerged in the early '90s was a hybrid culture that they called streetwear, where it's referencing graffiti, hip hop, punk rock, skateboarding, all the things that sort of emerge at a street level. And that was the life I was living. So I made T-shirts for my friends, and I used that money to fund what I was doing on the streets. And what I've done on the streets has grown, and the brand has grown. But I find the clothing can be very shallow, and it doesn't need to be. It often is. I try to make it more than purely shallow fashion by doing things on shirts that I also would put on a mural or a poster or in a painting. But I do recognize that fashion is moving very quickly, so I don't work in the same way as a fashion brand as I do as a fine artist. But there are a lot of parallels, and I do things with my fashion brand a lot of brands don't do, which is a lot of charity campaigns. There's a thing called the Obey Awareness Campaign that donates to things around climate change or voter registration or racial equality every single season.
How big is the brand? I mean, how many pieces of merchandise do you push? What can you share?
I mean, there's several hundred pieces per year. I alone am designing between 60 and 80 T-shirt graphics a year, and I also have a small staff of designers that help to supplement that. So unlike my fine art, where every single piece is created by me, my fashion brand, I create a lot of it, and I'm the director for it, the creative director for it, but it's too much for me to do it all by myself. So I have amazing people that help me.
So you work with a lot of brands also. We got asked by at least 4 already if we would like to collaborate on something, since we're here in Hamburg. So what makes it interesting for you? What is the brands that you love to collaborate with, and why?
A brand I've collaborated with a few times that I've enjoyed working with is Levi's, because Levi's has really strong values, I think, and it's a good quality product. It's iconic. It's got a great history. But they also are bringing the heritage forward to connect with what's going on culturally, and I think they're finding a good balance. I always enjoy working with them. You know, I've worked with Adidas. I also think Adidas is a really strong brand for their heritage, and they have a good skate shoe program. The Beastie Boys run DMC, Bob Marley, they all wore Adidas. So, yeah, there we go.
Correct. And then you are, just because there's so much tech going on here as well, let's talk a little bit about tech. So you have opened a gallery in the metaverse. There's a gallery. Yeah. Tell us a little bit about that.
Well, I'm trying to use every different platform that's at my disposal to share my ideas and share my artwork. My wife and I actually invested in a digital blockchain certificate of authenticity company called VerisArt years ago because we love the transparency and the fact that the blockchain cannot be easily corrupted, because there are things out there that people are questioning the authenticity of, and so to make sure that the authenticity can be tracked easily is important to me. So when NFTs came along, I thought, all right, how can I work within the metaverse and with NFTs in a way that's authentic to my aesthetics and my philosophies? And a lot of people, the thing I love about the metaverse and people socializing in that space is that it means that if you live somewhere isolated, you can find a community and you can interact in a common space online. And a lot of people find that, you know, whether they are sharing art in that space or inviting people to their house, that, you know, the things they surround themselves with are very important.
Does it work for you? I mean, this morning I was very critical of the metaverse. I said that there's hardly any traffic, any people active in the metaverse. Did it work out for you so far?
Well, you know, I'm spread very thin, so I'm very involved with my wife and with a friend named Sean Bonner, who is he's doing a lot of work in Web3 and in the metaverse, and we're collaborating on things that are put into that space. And I do Discords and I interact with people, but really I spend most of my time working on my art and not socializing anywhere.
Which is great.
Yeah, not on the metaverse, not on Instagram. I mean, I'm on Instagram, but I'm not sitting there, you know, going
Before
back
we open the bar, I want to ask one last question, then I want to open the bar. The last question is there a thin line between being a brand, a fashion brand that sells to everybody, and being an artist at the same time? It always feels, and maybe at least to my perception, it feels like you can't be both, but you can be both, obviously. Is it a new thing that you can be a credible artist and at the same time also you can be an entrepreneur? How does it go together?
I mean, they're all just different problems to solve. If you're a creative person, I think you can find ways. I think it's, you know, if you're narrow and simple-minded, then you say, this is my lane, I stay in this lane. I just don't agree with that idea, personally.
Tim, wie bist du auf Shepard gekommen? How did you find Shepard? You're a collector.
So, jetzt. Ich habe einen sehr guten Freund, Selim Varol, der ist sozusagen mein Kunstdealer, der mich in diese Welt reingeholt hat, und ich schon immer eine große Leidenschaft, aber wie in vielen Bereichen des Lebens keine Ahnung. Also ich brauche immer das Kindermädchen, das mich da einführt, und der ist ein leidenschaftlicher, nicht nur Sammler, ich glaube, er hat eine der größten Sammlungen überhaupt, gerade eine wunderschöne Ausstellung auch in Düsseldorf gehabt, Wonderwalls im Kunstforum, wirklich abartig toll, inspirierend und alles. Und natürlich habe ich Shepard schon wahrgenommen als Künstler in Form von Obey, weil ich ein großer New York-Anhänger bin, und dann bin ich so langsam in diese Welt eingetaucht, und dann irgendwann wurde mir erst klar, dass da ja Menschen dahinter stecken, dass er ja wirklich also weil ich über diese Street Art eher über das inoffizielle Kontakt aufgenommen habe. Also das hat mich halt im Stadtbild immer wieder inspiriert, und das war so für mich das Bemerkenswerte. Und dann, nur ganz kurz, bin ich auch fertig, und dann am Ende des Tages war es für mich faszinierend, weil ich sehr oft Ängste habe vor Dingen, mit denen ich mich nicht auskenne. Aber die Sprache, die er bildlich, und die Kraft, die er entwickelt hat, durch die Vermischung mit der Kultur, die ich selber teile, Beastie Boys, Public Enemy und ähnliche Sachen, das ist ja ein Teil meiner Jugendkultur gewesen, hat er mich sozusagen in diese Kunst reingeholt. Also er war sozusagen er hat mir die Hand gereicht, um mein Interesse für Kunst zu schärfen, um dann auch noch festzustellen, dass Kunst nicht nur ästhetisch ist, sondern auch eine enorme Kraft hat.
Now you have to translate. I'm not sure if you got all this. You're
I can translate it. He absolutely loves your work, and he really loves what you have to say on the wall.
and he accessed you through.
Almost. So yeah, but what really interests me, one last question is AI. We were talking about this all this week since we're here, and we're thinking AI, is this, we have different opinions, him and I. So is AI a tool? Is AI something good for the artists? Or is AI a distraction? And will it make the artist obsolete?
Well, I think that AI is it's an unstoppable evolution of what's been happening since the invention of mass media, the printing press, television, and then especially the internet. Now images, it used to be really special to make an image. It's not special to make an image anymore, so you have to work hard to make an image special. AI will do things that for people who work as graphic designers or artists that create the same problems that the excellent iPhone camera has created for traditional photographers at this point. I speak to photographers all the time, and they say it's really difficult to make good money for my photography because there's so many people that can create a competent photograph, but not an exceptional photograph. So the way I look at AI is it will be a tool for me to accelerate some of my creative processes, but it will not replace what I do myself. I already work from reference images, shoot my own photos, license photos, Frankenstein things together to make a composite image that I want, and make an illustration in my recognizable style. I think for some people who are lazy, they will say the AI will do everything I need, and that will be that. But I still don't think that that will stop the people with true vision from being visible far above what AI can generate exclusively.
I agree. And one last thing, because we are using up too much time already, is I personally appreciate your art, always have appreciated your art and worked with you on so many projects because you support women, you support women's businesses, you support female curator, you support everything that has to do with women and causes for women. Why is that? Why are you so engaged in this?
Well, because justice is important to me, and like I was saying before, women need to be given the same opportunities and treated with the same dignity, given the same fair treatment that everyone else, all men should be, anybody should be. And so, I have two daughters. I'm married to an amazing woman, and I just look at some of the discrepancies between talent and opportunity in the design world, the art world, and it's very important to me to make sure that all the awesome women out there are getting the
So let's bring out one of your really good friends, one of your really wonderful female friends who's also a really, really good friend of mine and an amazing street artist. Her name is Elle Street Arts. I'm gonna go there. Yeah?
Hi, guys.
So we were just asking a question about females in street art, and SHEPARD is so supportive of all of this all the time. And we know that graffiti is rough for women. What do you think about women in art and the changes?
Yeah, I mean, on the same note that SHEPARD was talking about, the wonderful thing about the public space is that it's equal opportunity for everyone. And so I chose the name Elle because it means she in French. And it's been very important for me to represent for the woman and say, if the guys can do it, so can we. And so using the same platform the same way as SHEPARD, but giving the woman a voice has been very important. And SHEPARD has been so kind to offer me up some of his older walls and whatnot. So,
and what she did was better than what I did, so yeah, it was quite deserved.
And you started a network also for females, for women in the graffiti community, curators like myself, but also other artists.
Inside and outside of graffiti, yeah, it's been a mission of mine and a bunch of my friends. We created this community called GARMY, which is a girly army, and it's essentially supporting women in the arts, in creative fields and in business. So not everyone in every field is willing to bring on a woman into a project. They just sort of overlook it. And so it is really important, until there's equality in museums, in galleries, on the street, representation on the street, and in public art, that the females are equally represented. And until that's the case, I think it's really important to have both strong females and male allies.
I agree, and we're going to talk about this a little bit more on the yellow stage. Elle and I will talk about it, and thank you so much to both of you, and thank you so much, Philip, wherever you are. Thank you for having us. We're done. We used up all your time and more.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Well, one last second. I think Karen made a good point just now. Karen, what is your question?
Boo. Yeah.
Should I come
Nimm
and
das.
talk and you can talk? And
Can I ask a question before?
Yes.
Just quickly. Can we do a collab?
Can we a collab?
this is where the curator comes in.
Brand management.
Here's the curator.
Talk to Yasha.
Your question is, I think, makes a lot of sense.
Shepard, I think that you did this logo, didn't you? Isn't it the new?
Yes,
This-
that's
this
his
logo.
Yeah.
What's the story behind the logo?
It is beautiful. What did inspire you to use those patterns?
Well, I love to put my work on any surface they'll allow me. This is a piece that's modeled after how I create patterns and collage, so that I can take over spaces with different elements, and it looks good organically on any surface. So there you go.
Beautiful.
There's my problem solving in action.
Thanks for doing this.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
We'll see you later.
Thank you. See you later. Thank you. And I didn't ask you about the St. Pauli dress.
Yes.